What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about Canada becoming a world energy superpower. Canada! What the heck is going on up there? I mean, I haven't heard anything about this, and the description of this video says Canada is carrying out one of North America's biggest mega projects, but you've probably never heard of it. And I've never felt so called out before. Yes, I had no idea, but now I'm intrigued. So let's take a look at what Canada has been up to and why it might be becoming a energy superpower of the world. So, with that being said, let's take a look.
This is one of the biggest energy mega projects in North America.
Oh.
But you've probably never heard of it.
No.
That's because it's a type of infrastructure that doesn't get as much attention as power plants or dams, despite being equally hard to build.
It's not a power plant or a dam. What is this thing? What is this place? I don't mean to be come across as so accusatory, but what is this? What's going on out here? Where is this? What are all these buildings and scaffolding? I mean, if you asked me, someone who has no idea about how this stuff works, it looks like oil or something, but it's really close to land, and there's a giant ship? I don't know.
Despite being equally hard to build and just as crucial to the world's power supply.
Okay.
With the global energy crisis showing no signs of stopping, gas prices stuck at record highs, and shortages made worse by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, ensuring there's enough of the stuff to go around has become a bit of a challenge.
Oh, oil. Oil, gas, oil. That's what we're talking about. Does Canada have a big oil or gas industry? What is this all about? And why is this is this something Canada's doing right now to become an even bigger player in this industry, or?
But when this enormous new facility in Canada completes in a few years, it could provide a much-needed new source of fuel that'll reach far and wide, as well as providing a huge economic boost.
Oh, wow. This is something that Canada is currently building. Seems like a giant oil refinery, or also it seems to include how Canada is going to increase its trade and export of oil, if that's what we're talking about. They still haven't explicitly said. This is something Canada is investing in for the future in a few years. Wow.
The single largest private sector investment in the history of Canada.
But in an industry where competition between countries is fiercer than ever, and with renewables on the rise, is this Canada's chance to become the next energy superpower? Or has it missed the boat?
Oh, I don't know. Wow. So this is something, I feel like I'm really behind the times here. This must be something that Canada has had in development for a while now. But surprise, surprise, most Americans, myself included, have never heard of any of this. Very interesting.
Okay, so let's get right to it. What exactly is this mega project?
Yes.
And why does it require digging up such a huge chunk of this stunning landscape?
What?
Well, it's all taking place in the small town of Kitimat, and the consortium behind it goes by the name of LNG Canada.
Yeah, it happens to be built on a very beautiful part of Canada. There's mountains and forests all around. That's a shame that they gotta destroy some of that, but when you're trying to make billions of dollars in oil, you know what they say. Destroy the nature. No, maybe that is what they say. I don't know. Okay, by the way, and also, this place is gigantic. I'm just finally getting a sense of scale with some of the images they're showing. This place looks like an entire town. It's so big.
LNG stands for liquefied natural gas. And yes, we know what you're thinking. And yes, you're right. Fossil fuels are bad, and Canada is supposedly a world leader in renewable energy.
Yeah.
So why is it building something like this?
Yeah.
Well, Canada is one of the world's biggest producers of natural gas, but unlike the US, Qatar or Australia, it doesn't have any way of exporting it overseas.
Oh, wow. Really? I didn't know Canada was in that position. Canada is one of the biggest, creators of natural gas, producers of natural gas, but not one of the world's biggest exporters. Really? What does Canada do with all the excess gas production then? Or if Canada can really figure out this way to export this gas and sell it to the rest of the world, I would imagine this would be huge for Canada's economy and make a lot of money.
The gas industry, of course, sees a huge amount of gas underground in a place called the Montney Basin, it's sort of northeastern British Columbia.
So we're talking about natural gas, which I guess is different to oil. I've been saying oil. Natural gas, there's a whole bunch of it trapped under the Montney Basin. Is it that big? That looks ginormous.
And they're thinking, we need to get this stuff to market. We need to be able to make some money from this. But the problem is that there's not a big population center nearby. They need to get it somewhere else.
Hence why Canada is now building its first LNG scheme, set to cost more than 40 billion Canadian dollars in total. A task that, as these pictures clearly show, is more than a little bit complicated.
Wow, Canada's spending $40 billion on building this natural gas refinery and export hub right next to where this is. The Montney Basin. Is this in British Columbia or Alberta? I'm not sure where the dividing line is. Or anyway, there it is. Apparently there's nothing there to take advantage of this. Okay, I see.
But hang on a moment, let's take a step back before we go any further.
Okay.
Isn't natural gas a gas, not a liquid? Yes, it'll still be a gas when it comes into this new terminal via the Coastal Gas Link, a new 670-kilometre pipeline that runs all the way from the source up in Dawson Creek.
Wow. See, Dawson's Creek. Did they say 670 kilometers? Okay.
Yes, that is the name of the town where the gas comes from.
Wow.
But if you want to send gas to another country or continent, there's an ocean in the way, and it's too far to simply build another pipeline.
Okay.
You'll need special tankers like these. To make it safe for transport, and so you can fit as much of it as possible on board, the gas has to be converted into a liquid.
Okay. I think that's what confuses me sometimes with this natural gas or oil, or I think it probably confuses a lot of people. You can have natural gas, but make it into liquid form because gas is a lot more voluminous, I believe. You can condense it, fit more of it, if it's a liquid, into these boats. So you can sell it for money! I don't know. That's going to become a thing, this video. The money! It's all for the money.
Then it's placed in these huge tanks and shipped over before it's turned back into a gas at the other end.
Okay.
It sounds simple when you summarise it like that, but the actual process is far from straightforward.
No, I mean, looking at these, buildings, it looks like just, endless tubing and stuff that makes no sense. What is all this stuff? That, these buildings? What even are they? Is it just pipes?
And the same goes for the construction. Now, you'll be pleased to know that we're not going to try and explain what every single component on this site does and how it's being built, because that will clearly take some time. So instead, we're going to pick out a few highlights.
Oh, wow! No way! They're actually going to teach about what some of this stuff is. I was just joking. Okay, cool.
Firstly, what are those things that look like huge cages covered in pipes?
Yeah.
They're the process modules. 35 meters tall and weighing over 4,500 tons,
Wow.
This one was the first to be installed. Its job is to act as the entry point for gas coming in from the pipeline and to send it on to be treated and processed. These giant structures were all manufactured in China and carried over on ships. To get them from the port to the site...
Oh my god, they're humongous. They actually ship these things? Like, this comes all made. You don't assemble it. This is all made? And you, like, ship it across the ocean? That's insane. It's insane how some of this stuff works.
They had to be placed on the back of large transporters and carefully moved by road before being lowered onto specially built foundations.
What?
It wasn't a one-off task either.
Look how beautiful. I'm sorry, but for like a natural gas refinery, this is beautiful. Yeah, I don't think you'll hear that too often. Canada is just beautiful. Look at the background, like, and contrasted with all this mechanical, industrial plant stuff.
In total, more than a dozen of these modules are going in. Next, there's the absorber column. It's used to remove carbon dioxide from the gas before it's liquefied. Weighing over 800 tons and measuring 54 meters long, it's the largest single piece of equipment at the site, requiring several hours and 3 cranes to install.
Crazy.
But the one thing you really can't help but notice when looking down from above is this. The massive tank where the gas is stored before it's piped onto those ships. 52 meters high and 92 meters in diameter, the colossal container is one of the biggest of its kind in the world.
Wow. With literally just a container for holding liquid natural gas, which is weird to say. Liquid gas. But this thing, it's even hard to comprehend the scale. Trying to think of standing next to this thing.
A domed roof that had to be lifted into place very slowly. The lift was done using fans, which gradually pressurized the tank and raised the roof over 3 hours.
I haven't really cared to learn much about natural gas plants or how they work, but it's pretty interesting, actually.
Once in position, welders fixed it into place, and the air pressure inside could return to normal. With construction now over 70% complete, the terminal is set to come online sometime in the middle of this decade.
Sometime in the middle of this decade. Well, next year in 2025, that's the middle. Somewhere in the next few years, this place is going to come online. I wonder if this will be big news in America when that happens. I'll be one of the few where it's like, I've heard of this! I know about this! And the other Americans will be like, shut up. Oh, who cares? I'm like, no! Canada's becoming a global energy superpower! People will be like, shh, quiet down. Be like, oh. But I know. And this really is a big deal. All joking aside, I am genuinely curious how big of an impact this is going to make for Canada and the economy, really. This sounds huge. Like Canada has been sitting on this huge, vast store of wealth in the form of gas that you really couldn't do much with. And it's all being unlocked.
And as for where all this gas is likely to go, well, Asia is the main target. It's the next closest continent to Canada's west coast. Many countries here are dependent on gas that has to be imported, and others are still burning coal, the worst of all fossil fuels.
So I guess Canada is going to have a good relationship with China, Japan, South Korea, being a major source of natural gas for Asia for years to come, apparently.
Yes, natural gas is a fossil fuel too, but it's not as bad as coal. So technically, it is a lower carbon form of energy.
It's bad for the environment, but it's not as bad. And it makes money!
But is it really going to get countries like China to stop using coal?
China is still importing large amounts of LNG, but they're still building coal plants. They don't necessarily use it for electricity. It's often used for domestic consumption, or it's used for powering industry. So as far as getting off coal, well, that may be one of the possibilities that may happen, or it could just be that places like China will import LNG and still burn their domestic coal because coal is cheaper.
I mean, no matter which way, it sounds like Asia is going to be the biggest purchaser of Canadian natural gas in the future.
So what about Europe, which has had to scramble over the past year to fill the gap in its gas supplies left behind by Russia and its war on Ukraine?
Oh, okay.
Europe's energy crisis, one that could tilt not just the continent, but the entire world into a possible recession.
Right.
According to Shell...
Right, because a lot of Europe is no longer getting its natural gas from, like, Russia. So maybe Canada could come in and fill up some of that void. Yeah.
One of the 5 companies behind LNG Canada, 2022 saw LNG imports to Europe increase by 60%.
Oh, wow.
Surely then, one of the world's biggest gas producers suddenly becoming an exporter is good news for Europeans.
Yeah, I didn't know. Canada is already increasing its exportation to Europe. And this is only going to further increase that exponentially, I would imagine.
Well, first off, they're in the opposite direction to Asia, which would mean very long journeys to reach them.
Yeah.
Also, despite needing more of it in the short term, Europe is pushing hard to get off fossil fuels for good as soon as possible. And right there, you have one of the potential problems with this whole project.
I mean, yeah. The world is trying to get more renewable, more towards electrified energy, renewable energy, clean energy. But with that being said, I still think the world is going to use and pay for natural gas and non-renewable energy for many, many, many years to come. Maybe in the long term, in 2050, when I'm making a video over how Canada's natural gas plant no one's buying it anymore. In 50 years, maybe then it'll be a problem. But in the soon-to-be future, for the foreseeable near future, I think Canada is going to have no problem selling this gas, making a lot of money.
The timing. When it finally gets up and running, many nations are going to be looking at much cleaner alternatives to natural gas.
Sure.
And the chances are that overall demand will be lower by then. Canada will also be coming up against competitors that have already been doing LNG for years. Another issue is the cost, which has grown significantly, not on the LNG terminal, but with that pipeline. There's also the impacts on local communities, the First Nations. LNG Canada says it's working closely with them on the main site, but there have been disagreements further inland.
Oh, that's sad to hear about. I don't know. Even if Canada has competition, even if the world doesn't want these types of energy for long, I still think it's got, like, this investment is probably going to end up being worth it. Energy is energy. It's like one of the most important things in the world.
Coastal GasLink pipeline was originally estimated to cost about, around $6 billion. The latest cost estimate is $14 billion.
Wow.
And these are Canadian dollars. And then at the same time, First Nations, the Aboriginal people of the Montney Basin, have been concerned about the impacts of drilling and forestry on their hunting and fishing rights.
The industry had to make an agreement with the government and the First Nations that limited the amount of drilling in the basin, and that could push up the cost of supply as well.
Okay.
All in all, LNG Canada represents something of a gamble for the companies involved, and to some extent the country.
That's true. I might not be correct about the success of this. This is a $30 billion gamble for Canada, and I guess we'll find out if it pays off.
It's undeniably impressive from a construction point of view, it's offering something that's clearly needed at the moment all over the world.
Yeah.
But as is often the case with these mega projects, whether it ends up being worth the cost, both financially and environmentally, remains to be seen.
True.
This video was sponsored...
Okay, and there we have it. That was absolutely fascinating. Again, I just saw this video and I was like, I had no idea. I haven't heard of this. Canada trying to become a big global player in natural gas. Now I know what it is. It's going to impact Europe. It's going to impact Asia. It's going to bring money to Canada. This could be huge. And I thought this was fascinating. I'm really glad that I took some time to learn about this. Big stuff happening in Canada. Kind of freaks me out that I don't even know about half of it. it seems like. This just came out of nowhere for me. Very cool project. I enjoyed this quite a bit. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on this $30 billion natural gas mega project happening in Canada, and what you think about it, especially if you're Canadian, how you think if this is a good thing, if it's going to impact Canada, if it's worth it, if it's destroying the environment, any of that. That'd be real cool to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.